A calm and quiet town, the kind of place where people rarely expect anything unusual to happen. Most houses look the same, most roads feel familiar, and most people follow a routine that hasn't changed in years. Every morning, the town wakes up together, and every night, it sleeps together. It is the kind of place where even a small, unexpected sound feels strange. In this town, there's a man who keeps mostly to himself. He isn't unfriendly. He simply likes peace and doesn't talk much unless needed. His days usually feel the same. He wakes up, works, comes home, eats dinner alone, and then takes a slow walk at night. That walk is the only part of the day he truly enjoys. Because the world becomes quieter, the air becomes colder, and everything feels calmer. One night, he followed the same path he always walked, a narrow road that runs along the edge of a hill. The moon was bright that night, softer than usual, giving everything around him a silver glow. He could hear the leaves shake gently in the wind, and somewhere far away, a dog barked softly. Everything felt normal until it didn single quotes d. Suddenly, he heard a sound he had never heard before. It wasn't loud, but it felt sharp, almost like the sound was reaching out to him from very far away. It wasn't the cry of any animal he recognized. It wasn't a dog, wasn't a cat, and wasn't a bird. It was something deeper, something filled with pain. It sounded like a creature begging for help, but barely able to speak. He stopped walking. His heart reacted before he could think. The sound came again, slightly louder this time, like an echo traveling across the hills. It was a cry that didn't belong to the night, didn't belong to any creature he knew, and yet it somehow felt familiar, like it was meant for him. He turned his head, trying to understand where the sound came from. The hills stretched far into the darkness, covered in trees and rocks. The sound didn't repeat again, but the silence that followed felt heavy, as if the world had paused for a moment. He stood there for a long minute, waiting, listening, breathing slowly. But nothing came again. Finally, he convinced himself it must have been the wind or some far animal he misheard. Yet deep inside, he knew it wasn't that simple. Something about that cry had touched him. It had a feeling in it, something desperate. He continued walking home, but every few steps his mind returned to that sound. It wasn't fear he felt, it was curiosity mixed with worry. He couldn't let it go, no matter how much he tried. Even after he reached home and sat down with a cup of water, his ears kept replaying that strange cry. The next day, he told a few people about what he heard. He wasn't someone who talked much, but the sound had bothered him enough that he needed to share it. The first person he told laughed a little and said it must have been the wind bouncing off the rocks. Someone else joked that he must have been too tired after work. Another person said maybe he heard a goat or a wounded animal, and his imagination added the rest. He didn't argue with them. He simply nodded and stayed quiet, even though none of their explanations felt right. He had lived in that town for years. He knew the sound of every common animal. He knew how the wind sounded at night. But this cry, this strange, painful cry, was nothing like that. It sounded like a message. All day he tried to focus on his tasks, but his mind kept drifting back to the hills. Every now and then he would look outside and imagine hearing the sound again. It didn't come, but the memory felt strong enough to keep him restless. That night, he went on his walk again, hoping the sound would repeat. He followed the same route, walked along the same road, past the same trees. But everything was silent. Only the leaves, the wind, and the distant movement of bush made soft noises. He waited, listened, but nothing came. The silence felt almost frustrating. Still, he told himself not to overthink. Maybe it truly was just an animal cry, nothing more than that. So he walked home, trying to convince his mind to forget. But the next night, his routine changed. He didn't just walk. He paused every few minutes and listened quietly. He leaned closer to the hills. He tried to hear every small sound. And just when he was about to give up and return home, the cry came again. This time, it was softer, but clearer. It carried emotion in a way he had never felt before. It was a sound of fear, of weakness, of someone calling out, of losing hope. His heart tightened. It wasn't a normal cry. It sounded almost intelligent, almost aware. He froze, eyes wide, breath held. The sound came a second time, higher in pitch, as if the creature was trying harder to be heard. And just like before, no one else seemed to hear it. The road behind him was empty, the nearby houses dark. Only he reacted. Only he stopped. His legs began moving on their own, heading toward the hills. The sound wasn't too far. It echoed off the rocks, giving him a direction. He followed a narrow dirt path that most people avoided after dark. The air grew colder, the ground uneven. Still, he kept going, guided by instinct more than logic. As he climbed higher, his sound became clearer. It wasn't constant. It came in waves, each one weaker than the last. It felt like the creature was losing strength with every cry. The thought scared him more than the darkness around him. When he reached a flat area between two hills, the sound suddenly stopped. He waited. The silence stretched. His heart beat loudly in his ears. Just when he began stepping forward again, the cry returned, this time closer, and filled with pain so raw that he felt it in his chest. He looked around frantically, trying to find the source. But the hills cast long shadows, and the trees blocked most of the moonlight. He moved slowly, trying not to make noise. Then, as he shifted a rock with his foot, he spotted something unusual in the distance. There was a small opening between two large boulders, barely wide enough for someone to crawl through. From inside that opening, a faint glow flickered soft, weak, like a dying spark. He stepped closer. His heart pounded harder. The cry came again from inside that narrow gap, sounding tired but hopeful. He crouched down and peered inside. What he saw didn't match anything he had ever seen in his entire life. The shape inside looked like a large, folded creature with wings that seemed too big for the small space. Its skin had a texture he had never seen on any animal. Its wings were thin and soft, yet strong enough to look like they once carried weight. And its eyes were full of pain and fear. The creature lifted its head slightly, struggling. Its body was trapped under fallen rocks. Its wing was bent in a way that made him flinch just looking at it. But the creature didn't growl, didn't lash out. Instead, it made a soft cry, the same cry he heard for days. A cry that felt like a plea for help. He understood everything in that moment. The sound wasn't just a random noise. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't imagination. It was this creature. And it had been calling for help again and again, hoping someone would hear. But no one did. No one except him. He felt no fear, only a deep urge to help. Something inside him told him this creature wasn't dangerous. It was just scared and alone. So he whispered softly, letting the creature know he wasn't there to harm it. The creature blinked slowly, as if it understood. He knew he couldn't leave it there. He had no idea what it was, no idea where it came from, but he couldn't turn away. The creature's silent trust filled his heart with a strange courage he didn't know he had. And that was how the first part of their story began. One man, one unheard cry, and a creature the world would never believe existed. With the man kneeling in front of the narrow opening between the two boulders, trying to understand what exactly he was looking at, the creature inside didn't move much. Its breathing was slow and uneven, like every inhale required effort. The weak glow around it faded for a second, then returned, as if its strength rose and fell with each breath. The man hesitated. He wasn't afraid, but he was overwhelmed. He had never seen anything like this before. It didn't look like a normal animal. It didn't look like anything from the world he knew. But its pain was real, and its eyes showed confusion and fear the same way any injured being would. He leaned forward slowly, trying not to make the creature panic. The ground beneath him was cold and rough, but he didn't care. He spoke again, this time a little louder, using a calm voice. He told the creature he was there to help, even though he wasn't sure if it understood human words. But something in the creature's expression changed. It blinked once, almost like a sign that it recognized his intention. He raised his hand very slowly, showing the creature he wasn't holding anything. No weapon, no tool, nothing. The creature watched his hand closely, but didn't react violently. Instead, it let out a soft, trembling sound that felt like a mixture of fear and relief. The sound echoed in the hollow space and reached him in a way that settled deep in his chest. He realized the creature's wing was trapped under a large rock. It must have fallen from the slope above, pinning it down. The creature's body was bruised, and one side of its chest rose and fell painfully. He didn't know how long it had been stuck there, but judging by the weakness in its voice, it had been many hours, maybe even longer. He looked at the rock. It was heavy, far too heavy for him to lift alone. He tried pushing it with both hands, pressing his shoulder against it, but it didn't move even an inch. The creature made a pained sound, as if reacting to the small vibrations. He stopped immediately, not wanting to hurt it more. He sat back, breathing fast. The night was growing colder. His hands were dirty, his clothes covered in dust, but he didn't move away. He stayed right there, planning his next move. The creature watched him quietly, its eyes filled with exhaustion. There was trust in those eyes now, as if it understood he was its only chance. After a moment, he stood up and scanned the area. There were long branches scattered nearby, broken from old trees. He grabbed one, tested its strength, then slid it under the edge of the rock to use as leverage. The wood creaked loudly. The creature flinched, but didn't cry out. He pushed with all the force he had. The branch bent dangerously. His muscles burned. Sweat covered his forehead, despite the cold wind. Slowly, the rock shifted just a little, barely noticeable, but enough to give him hope. He repositioned the branch, pushed again, and this time the rock lifted a bit higher. The creature let out a soft sound, half surprise, half relief. That sound pushed him to try harder. He didn't stop. He ignored the ache in his arms, ignored the dirt in his clothes. He kept pushing until the rock finally rolled aside, freeing the trapped wing. The moment the rock moved fully, the creature pulled its wing back slowly, wincing in pain. Its body trembled from the effort. The man quickly knelt beside the opening again, checking if any other rocks were pressing on it. Some smaller stones were stuck near its legs. He gently removed them by hand, being careful not to hurt the creature. The creature lowered its head, almost as if thanking him. He didn't know why, but he felt emotional seeing it like that. It wasn't just an animal he had freed. It was a living being that had been crying for help, and he was the only one who responded. That thought made something inside him shift. He felt responsible for it now. The creature tried to stand, but its legs shook too much. Its wings unfolded only halfway before falling back down. It was still too weak. The man worried it might faint again. He quietly told it to rest, using a gentle tone. The creature seemed to understand, because it lay still, breathing slowly. He reached into the gap and touched its wing carefully with his fingertips. The surface felt strangely warm, smoother than he expected, almost like a mix between soft leather and delicate skin. The creature didn't pull away. If anything, it relaxed a little, as if his touch gave it comfort. He withdrew his hand and looked around. He realized he couldn't leave it in that small space. It needed to come out so it could rest properly. But forcing it out would be painful for both of them. He needed to help it move step by step. He told the creature he would help lift it. He was aware that talking to a creature that didn't speak was unusual, but something in the moment made it feel natural. The creature responded with a quiet, low hum. It wasn't a happy sound, but it wasn't a fearful one either. It was a sign of acceptance. He reached in again, this time placing his hands under its wing, not lifting the whole creature, just helping it shift. Slowly, the creature began sliding its body forward, inch by inch. Every movement made it breathe harder, but it kept going. He encouraged it softly, almost whispering each word. After several long moments, the creature finally managed to pull itself out of the narrow gap. It collapsed onto the open ground beside him, wings spread weakly, body trembling. The moonlight touched its skin, revealing its shape more clearly. It was unlike anything he had ever imagined. Its wings were long and folded tightly against its sides, but he could see the delicate patterns on them, shapes that looked almost like natural symbols. Its body was slim but strong, built for flight. Its eyes were large and reflective, filled with intelligence. He didn't know what it was, but he knew it wasn't ordinary. The creature lifted its head to look at him. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. The world around them felt silent and still, as if nature itself had paused to witness their strange meeting. The man slowly sat down beside the creature, unsure what to do next. He didn't touch it again. He didn't want to scare it. He just sat close enough to show he wasn't leaving. The creature closed its eyes, exhausted. But even with its eyes closed, it stayed near him, as if it felt safe only when he was close. He felt a warm sensation in his chest, a feeling he hadn't felt in a long time. Someone or something needed him. After a few minutes, the creature opened its eyes slightly and made a soft, low sound. It wasn't a cry of pain this time. It felt like a question, like it wanted to know what would happen next. He told it softly that he wouldn't leave, that he would help. He didn't know how much of that it understood, but the creature rested its head on the ground and stopped trembling so violently. He looked around again. The hills were dark and silent. No one else was there. No one else would believe what was happening. But he wasn't thinking about that anymore. All he cared about was making sure the creature survived the night. He stayed beside it for a long time, listening to its breathing, watching its wings rise and fall slowly. Each breath felt like progress. He wasn't an expert. He didn't know what such a creature needed, but he knew it needed rest, safety, and a calm presence. And he decided he would give it that. Hours passed. The wind grew colder. The moon moved across the sky. But the man didn't go home. He stayed right there, beside a creature that no one else could hear or understand. And as the night grew deeper, he realized something important. This creature had chosen him. Out of everyone in town, he was the one who heard its desperate cry. He was the one who came. And now, he was the one it trusted. Quiet moment of dawn, slowly approaching. The sky was still dark, but the edges of the horizon were turning a soft gray. The wind had become colder, and the leaves around the hillside made a gentle rustling sound. The man sat beside the creature, watching it breathe. Even in the dim light, he could see how tired it was, but there was something peaceful in the way it rested next to him. Almost like it felt safe for the first time in a long while. He hadn't planned to stay the whole night, but he couldn't bring himself to leave. Every time he thought about going home, the creature would shift slightly or let out a soft sound, and he stayed. It wasn't fear holding him there, it was responsibility. He didn't know what this creature was, where it came from, or how badly it was hurt, but he knew it needed him. As the light grew a little brighter, He took a better look at its wing. It wasn't broken, but it was bruised and stiff. The creature tried lifting it slightly, then winced and laid it back down. The man spoke gently, telling it not to force anything. He didn't know if it understood the words, but it understood his tone. The creature lowered its head and breathed slowly. He pulled his jacket off and placed it under the creature's body to keep it warm. It was a simple gesture, but the creature's eyes softened in a way that showed appreciation. He smiled without even realizing it. Helping it felt natural, almost like he was meant to be there at that moment. After some time, he gently offered it water from a small bottle he carried during his walks. He tilted the bottle slowly, letting a few drops fall near its mouth. The creature watched for a moment, then extended its tongue in a careful movement, touching the water. It wasn't much, but the creature looked relieved after taking those few drops. The man felt a wave of hope wash over him. If it could drink, it could recover. The sun began rising, spreading a warm light across the hills. The creature squinted slightly, lifting its head with effort. In the daylight, its skin looked different, showing patterns he hadn't noticed at night. The wings had thin, vein-like lines that shimmered faintly when the sun hit them. It didn't look like anything from this world, yet it felt alive and vulnerable in a way. That made it seem strangely familiar. The man watched the creature in silence for a while. He didn't want to rush it. Eventually, the creature shifted one leg, then another, testing its strength. It tried to sit up, but its body shook, and it fell back gently. The man reached out and placed his hand on the ground, near it, not touching, just offering presence. The creature gave a soft sound, almost like a sigh. Not of pain, but of comfort. After a while, the man stood up slowly and stretched his tired muscles. He had been sitting in the same spot for hours. His legs were stiff, his back ached, and his hands were cold, but he didn't care. He turned to the creature and said softly that he would find food for it. He didn't know what it ate, but he could try. He walked down toward the edges of the hill, searching for anything that looked safe. He found some fresh leaves, berries, and a few fruits that naturally grew in that area. He carried them back carefully and placed them near the creature. It sniffed them slowly, choosing one of the soft fruits. It didn't eat much, but the bite it took seemed to give it a small bit of strength. Seeing it try made him feel strangely proud. He sat down again, and the creature edged just a little closer, folding its wings carefully. It didn't press against him, but it moved close enough to show trust. The man felt a warmth grow inside him. This wasn't just an animal he rescued. It was a connection forming something rare and unexpected. For a long while, they stayed like that, quietly sharing the early morning calm. The world around them woke up slowly. Birds began chirping, the wind grew softer, and the sunlight warmed the ground beneath them. After the creature seemed to rest enough, the man spoke again, telling it that he needed to go back to town for a little while. He didn't want to leave it, but he needed to bring more supplies, food, cloth, maybe something warm. He pointed toward the town, then pointed back to the creature, trying to show he would return. The creature watched him closely. Its eyes were full of emotion, almost like worry. It let out a low hum that sounded like it didn't want him to go. He kneeled beside it, placing his hand carefully on the ground near its face. The creature leaned its head slightly closer, its breath warm against his hand. It understood him. Or at least, it understood he was coming back. He stood up again, took a deep breath, and slowly walked away. Every step felt heavy. He kept looking back to make sure the creature stayed safe. It didn't move. It only watched him with those large, reflective eyes until he disappeared over the hill dot as he walked back toward the town. He felt a strange mixture of worry and determination. He needed to get supplies quickly. The creature was weak, and the hillside was no place for it to stay alone for long. He hurried through the small roads, avoiding unnecessary conversations. He didn't want anyone asking where he had been all night. He reached his home and grabbed a blanket, some food items, and a small bowl for water. He also picked up a flashlight in case he returned after sunset. He thought about telling someone what he found, but he instantly dismissed the idea. No one would believe him. They would think he made it up or was confused. Worse, they might try to find the creature, and that could be dangerous for it. He made sure he packed everything quietly, then left again, walking faster than before. His mind stayed on the creature the entire time. He kept imagining it lying there alone, injured and frightened. When he finally reached the hillside again, he felt his chest tighten. What if the creature had tried to move and hurt itself more? What if a wild animal had approached? What if all those fears disappeared the moment he climbed the ridge and saw the creature exactly where he left it, waiting? The creature lifted its head the second it heard his footsteps. Its wings fluttered weakly, almost like it was relieved. He hurried down to it and placed the blanket near its body. The creature studied the blanket for a moment, then slowly rested part of its body on it, feeling the softness. The man smiled gently. Small comforts mattered. He filled the bowl with water and slid it toward the creature. It drank slowly. Its movements were still shaky, but stronger than before. He offered more fruit, and the creature took a bite, then another. Its energy was returning, little by little. The man sat beside it again. The creature shifted closer, clearly wanting his presence. The wind moved gently through the trees, and the warmth of the morning sun spread over both of them. For the first time since the strange cry reached him days ago, the man felt calm. He felt purpose. The creature wasn't just an accident he stumbled upon. It was something that had been calling out specifically for someone who could hear beyond fear or disbelief. It chose him without words, and he accepted without hesitation. They spent the rest of the day together. The creature rested, ate a little more, and even lifted its wings slightly to stretch them. The man stayed near, talking softly even though the creature couldn't speak back. He told it about the town, about his lonely routines, about how he always walked at night just to feel peaceful. The creature listened, eyes half closed, like it understood the emotion, even if not the meaning. As evening approached, the creature attempted to stand again. Its legs trembled, but it managed to rise halfway before lowering itself again. The man quickly steadied it by placing his hand near its side, not touching, but offering support. The creature accepted the silent assistance and rested again. The bond between them grew stronger with every passing hour. When night finally returned, the man didn't leave. He stayed with the creature, keeping a small light nearby, guarding it from the dark. The creature rested its head near him, breathing slow and steady. In that quiet night, under the wide open sky, the man understood something fully. The creature didn't just cry for help. It cried for connection, and he was the only human who heard it. The next morning, the man woke up earlier than usual. His mind was still full of the strange moments he had lived the night before, those shining eyes in the trees, that soft cry that only he seemed to hear, and the way the creature had looked at him with something between fear and trust. He had slept very little, yet he felt strangely alert, as if something inside him was pushing him to get up and go back into the forest. He made tea, but it tasted like nothing because his thoughts were somewhere else. Every few seconds he looked toward the line of trees, as if expecting the creature to suddenly appear. A part of him wondered if he had imagined everything. Maybe his tired brain had played tricks on him. Maybe the creature was just a strange animal, not anything extraordinary. But then he remembered the way it had curled its wings around itself like someone hiding from pain. No normal creature did that. And he remembered the sound, the cry that sounded like someone calling for help, not an animal noise. He couldn't push it away. He took a deep breath and said quietly to himself, "I have to go back." So he grabbed a small bag with food, water, and a few soft cloths he used for his pets whenever they got hurt. He walked toward the forest with steady steps even though his heart was beating fast. When he entered the trees, everything felt different. The forest was calm, almost too calm, as if it was waiting. Even the birds were quieter. He followed the same path from the night before, watching the ground carefully. At one point, he noticed faint marks on the soil, something round and deep, like a creature had rested there. It was exactly where he had seen the glowing eyes. He knelt down and touched the marks. The soil was still slightly warm. That meant the creature had been there recently. He stood up slowly and said in a gentle voice, "If you're here, I'm not here to harm you." His voice echoed softly through the trees. For a moment, there was no response. Then another cry came, very faint, almost like a whisper. It came from deeper inside the forest. He froze. The sound was weaker than the night before, but it was the same. The same feeling reached his chest, the feeling that something was calling him directly. He started walking toward the sound, careful not to move too loudly. The forest grew thicker, and the sunlight struggled to reach the ground. After a few minutes, he saw a gap between the trees that looked like a small clearing. He walked closer, and then stopped when he saw something curled up near a fallen log dot. It was the creature. Its wings were wrapped around its body, but this time they were folded tightly, as if it was trying to hide. He could see its small head slightly lowered, one ear twitching nervously. The creature looked weaker than before. Its tail moved only a little, and its body shivered. The man's heart softened. Whatever it was clearly not dangerous at that moment. It looked more like something exhausted and scared. He spoke softly. "It's me. I came back. I brought food." The creature slowly raised its head. Its eyes glowed again, not as bright as last night, but still deep and strange, like stars trapped inside. It looked at him for a long moment. He didn't move. He wanted the creature to approach him first, if it wanted to. After a few seconds, the creature made a small sound, not the cry from earlier, but something softer, almost like a low hum. It seemed to recognize him. The man slowly sat down on the ground. He opened his bag, took out a soft piece of bread, and placed it on the grass between them. He didn't push it closer. He just left it there and waited. The creature watched his hand carefully. Its wings loosened a little. Slowly, it stretched its neck forward just a bit, sniffing the air. The man's chest filled with hope. That tiny movement meant trust was starting to form. When the creature finally moved closer, it did so very slowly, like someone learning to walk again. It reached the bread, sniffed it, and took a small bite. The man didn't make any sudden movements. He knew trust could disappear as quickly as it came. After the creature swallowed the tiny piece, it made a soft sound again. The man didn't know what it meant, but it didn't sound angry or frightened. It sounded thankful. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe. I promise." Then he noticed something. The creature's right wing had a small tear near the edge. That explained its weakness. Maybe the tear was painful. Maybe that was why it couldn't fly or move properly. He felt a deep concern rise inside him. He reached slowly into his bag and pulled out one of the cloth pieces. He held it up, showing the creature. "I want to help you," he said gently. "If you let me." The creature tilted its head, watching him. It didn't run away. That was enough for him. He moved a little closer, very slowly. When he reached the side of the creature, he could see the tear clearly. It wasn't large, but for a wing, even a small injury could be serious. He touched the cloth to the wing very carefully and the creature flinched, but didn't pull away. It made another soft sound, but it didn't sound like pain, more like discomfort mixed with trust. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm trying to help." He gently cleaned around the torn area. The creature's breathing slowed, becoming calmer. For a moment, the man felt something strange, almost like the creature understood every intention behind his actions. He wrapped the cloth around the edge of the wing to protect it. As he tied it lightly, the creature looked at him with a soft expression he couldn't quite describe. It wasn't fear. It wasn't sadness. It was something Warm got after he finished. The creature slowly stretched its wing again, testing it. It didn't cry out. Instead, it made the soft hum again and lowered its head in a peaceful way. The man smiled. "You're going to be fine," he said quietly. They sat there in silence for a while. The forest around them felt calmer, almost gentle. The creature rested its head on its front claws, its body more relaxed than before. The man stayed beside it, watching the soft glow in its eyes. Then something unexpected happened. The creature suddenly lifted its head and turned it sharply toward the trees on the other side of the clearing. Its ears stood up. The man felt a chill run through his body. He didn't hear anything, no sound, no movement, but the creature clearly sensed something. "Is someone here?" he whispered. The creature didn't move from its place, but its eyes glowed brighter, more alert. It wasn't fear, more like awareness. The man looked around, searching, but the forest seemed silent. Too silent. Then he remembered what he had felt the night before, the feeling that the creature wasn't just an animal. Something about it was different, something he still didn't understand. He looked at the creature again. "Are you trying to tell me something?" The creature slowly lowered its head toward him, almost as if nodding. He felt a sudden weight in his chest. Whatever this creature was, whatever it needed, he had just become part of it. He didn't know what was coming next, but he knew one thing clearly. The creature had chosen him, and he wasn't going to walk away. For a long moment, the man sat in that quiet forest clearing, listening to the soft breathing of the creature beside him. The air felt heavy but calm, like nature itself was waiting for his next move. The creature's alertness from earlier hadn't faded fully. Its ears occasionally twitched, and its glowing eyes scanned the shadows as if expecting something. But slowly, it relaxed again and curled its wings close to its body. The man watched it carefully. The creature didn't seem dangerous, but he could tell there was something more behind its behavior. It wasn't afraid without reason. Something must have chased it or harmed it earlier. Something must have forced it to hide. He wanted to ask questions, though he knew the creature couldn't answer with words. Still, the connection between them felt strong, almost like the creature understood his intentions, even if it didn't understand every word. He finally whispered, "You don't have to be scared. You're safe here." The creature blinked slowly, a calm, trusting blink, and lowered its head onto the grass. The man's heart softened. This strange being that looked like a mix of a bat and a dragon, with glowing eyes and soft hums instead of growls, had somehow found its way to him. And he couldn't imagine leaving it alone again. But he couldn't stay in the forest forever. The creature needed proper rest, and perhaps even a safer place. Somewhere protected from whatever danger had frightened it in the first place. "I think I should take you home," he murmured. The creature's ear twitched, but it didn't move away. He stood up carefully, brushing dirt from his clothes. The creature lifted its head slightly, watching him, a bit unsure. He stepped closer again and held out his hand gently. He waited patiently for the creature to decide whether it trusted him enough. After a long, quiet moment, the creature slowly placed one clawed foot forward. Then it pushed itself up, stretching its battered wings with effort. Even though the wing was wrapped and supported now, he could see it was still weak. It wouldn't be able to fly. He stepped back a little and said softly, "Follow me." Let's go somewhere safe." The creature tilted its head, then slowly started walking beside him. Its movements were small and careful, but steady. The way it walked made the man feel protective, like he was guiding a lost child out of the darkness. They made their way through the trees. The forest floor was uneven, but the creature managed, staying close enough that he could hear the gentle rhythm of its breathing. As they walked, birds and small animals in the trees watched them with cautious curiosity. Nature seemed confused, but calm, almost welcoming. When they reached the edge of the forest, the man felt the creature stiffen slightly. It looked toward the open space ahead his yard, the familiar path to his home. Perhaps the creature had never seen such open ground. Or maybe it felt too exposed. He knelt beside it and whispered, "It's okay. It's just my place. No one else is there." The creature looked into his eyes for a long second, as if trying to decide whether it believed him. Then it took a small step forward. That small step made his chest warm. Trust, he thought, is built little by little dot as they walked across the yard. The man noticed how the creature's shadow stretched long behind them. In the afternoon, light long wings, long tail, slender body. It was such a strange sight, yet felt oddly natural to him now. When they reached the house, the creature paused at the door. It sniffed the air, unsure. The man pushed the door open gently and moved aside. "You can come in," he said. The creature hesitated, then took a slow step inside. Its claws clicked softly on the floor. It looked around the room's simple furniture, soft rugs, warm colors. Everything must have seemed strange to it, but nothing frightened it enough to pull away. The man closed the door behind them. For the first time, he realized he had no idea what a creature like this ate or what it needed. But he also knew he could figure things out slowly, one step at a time. He walked to the kitchen area and prepared soft foods, fruit pieces, slightly warmed water, some bread. He placed everything on a tray and set it down gently near the creature. The creature sniffed the fruit first, then carefully picked up a small piece between its teeth. After tasting it, it took another bite. That simple moment made the man smile. "Good," he said softly. "At least you can eat this." He sat a little distance away, not too close, letting the creature eat at its own pace. As minutes passed, the creature became more relaxed. Every so often, it looked up at him, as if checking whether he was still there, and every time it saw him, it seemed calmer. Once the creature finished eating, it slowly curled its tail around itself. Its eyes had softened with exhaustion. The day had clearly drained its energy. The man stood up quietly and walked to his small storage cabinet. He grabbed a blanket, soft, warm, something that smelled like home and safety. When he returned, the creature looked at him, but didn't move. He lowered himself onto the floor beside it and gently placed the blanket near its body. The creature watched him, then slowly shifted its position until the blanket touched its side. It even rested its head on a corner of the cloth, almost like a pillow. The man felt his chest tighten with emotion. He hadn't expected anything like this to happen in his life. He had spent years alone, surrounded only by nature and silence. He never thought a creature from somewhere far beyond human understanding would choose him for comfort or trust. As the creature fell asleep, its breathing slow and steady, the man sat beside it, watching its peaceful form. He didn't touch it. He simply stayed close enough that it would feel safe if it woke. Time passed quietly, and the sun lowered outside. Shadows moved across the room, stretching long and thin. The man couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. The glowing eyes, the cry no one else could hear, the way the creature had let him help it. It was all still unbelievable, yet here it was, sleeping in his home as if it belonged there. After a while, the creature shifted slightly, and its wing brushed his leg by accident. Its eyes opened a little, glowing faintly. It looked at him, tired but calm. I'm here, he said softly. Don't worry. You can rest. The creature closed its eyes again, trusting that voice without question. The man leaned his back against the wall, his mind full of thoughts. What was this creature? Where had it come from? Why had only he heard its desperate cry that night? There had to be a reason. But he didn't feel afraid. He felt responsible, like he had been chosen for a purpose he didn't yet understand. As the evening deepened into night, the man stayed awake a little longer, listening to the soft breathing beside him. He didn't want the creature to wake up and feel alone. Eventually, though, his own eyes grew heavy, and he rested his head against the wall. He didn't sleep deeply. But whenever he drifted into light rest, he felt a quiet peace settle over the room, something warm, gentle, and strangely comforting. Almost like the creature was watching over him, too. Hours later, he woke up suddenly, not from a sound, but from a feeling. The creature was awake, sitting upright, its eyes glowing brighter than before. It wasn't frightened. It wasn't agitated. It seemed calm, strangely calm. The man lifted his head. Are you okay? The creature looked at him for a few seconds, then slowly turned its head toward the window. The night sky outside was clear and full of stars. The creature made a low hum, soft, almost like a song. The man followed its gaze and whispered, Is that where you came from? The creature didn't answer with words, but something in its expression told him he was right. A deep silence filled the room. The man felt something inside him shift, something warm yet bittersweet. He knew the creature would not stay forever. Whatever world it came from, whatever path it had lost, it would someday return. But not now, not yet. For tonight, the creature was here, safe, healing. With him, he placed his hand gently on the floor, close enough for the creature to sense, but not touching. The creature lowered its head toward his hand, just enough for the tips of its soft fur to brush his skin. It was a small gesture, but full of meaning. In that moment, he understood something simple and powerful. He had heard its cry when no one else had. He had answered it, and in doing so, he had become the one thing the creature needed most, someone who cared. Whatever the future held, the bond between them was real. And it was only the beginning.